Regular meeting of the Board of Public Safety to order. For the record, today is Wednesday, April 5th, 2023. We are in the City Hall auditorium. We have a quorum. For the record, attending in person here our Commissioner Spino, Commissioner McElroy, Commissioner Benedetto, Commissioner McLeod, and Commissioner Battle. Is Commissioner Paxwell online? No. All right, so we do have our quorum. Before we begin the agenda, could you please stand up? Before we get into the item numbers on the agenda, I'd like to propose that we move a couple of these agenda items around. I think it's a little more efficient use of the board's time and the department head's time. So what I'm proposing is to move item 4, which would be discussion of the police department budgets for fiscal year 23-24, and a discussion regarding the fire department budgets for 23-24 to the end of the agenda. We can do those right after item number 14. In this way, we can go through all of the business that the board needs to take action on. We can get the reports from the various departments that are here, Trinity, our volunteers, and it affords them an opportunity to leave if they don't want to go through the budget documents. Everybody's okay with that? Good. Okay. With that said, I'll open up item number 1. I'll entertain a motion to open the meeting to the public.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Clem, second by Commissioner Benedetto. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We are open to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to address the commissioners? Seeing none, we'll and to entertain a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes from March 1st, 2020.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McLeod. Questions or comments on the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I understand. 1
abstention for the record would be Commissioner Benedetto. Item 3, I'll entertain a motion to accept Officer Audrey Stepp as a regular member of the Trenton Police Department after successfully completing the probationary period, which is effective March 26, 2023.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Benedetto, second by Commissioner McElroy. Questions or comments?
Chief, everything's good? Good to go.
Excellent. Hearing none, I'll call this motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll jump into item number 6. I'll entertain a motion to utilize Sourcewell Supplier Contract number 113021 -RVG-1 for the purchase of 1 E1 rescue pumper for the Torrington Fire Department in the sum of $660,000 from Greenwood Emergency Vehicles LLC of North Attleboro, Mass, to be paid from the Vehicle Replacement Fund pending City Council and Board of Finance approval.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Second.
McLeod, second by Commissioner McElroy. Are there questions on the motion?
I don't have a question, Mayor, but I would ask the chief or the deputy to just briefly explain to the rest of the board what you explained to me in the vehicle replacement meeting on why we're buying it now and the costs and how we're doing it. You know, because of our track record, the last 2 purchases. You know, I don't have a problem with this at all. Just I think it's explaining that we're just the board. That's all.
Just a little history on fire apparatus purchases in general. There's a 2-year start and finish waiting period for new apparatus. What a lot of the sales or vendors are doing now are buying their own trucks right from the manufacturers. In this case, Greenwood's where we're buying 2 from. With E1 in Florida as the manufacturer, they're pre-purchasing their own trucks. They basically flip The days of a demo coming out where they used to drive around the country and show off the trucks are gone because they can't keep up with the demand of trucks. This truck here originally is due to come in June of 2024. This is to replace engine 4, which is our Rosenbauer front. He's put that into the spare fleet, which is going on 10 years old now. So they give it another 10 years old being a spare piece. In the meantime, when all this is happening, everything being pushed off, the 2024 year in June, FIP vehicle replacement advisory board's plan of 24-25, where we'll have budget money to replace engine 4. So Greenwood's reached out to us saying, we're not getting trucks. Here's some trucks we got coming on the road. We looked at some trucks. They have some trucks that actually coming this year, which wouldn't fit in our plan. So there's one in June that we looked at, which kind of matched what we're looking for. It's 1,000 gallons. It's a rescue pumper, kind of like what we run on engine 4 out of headquarters now. So that's why we're here. We want the vehicle replacement. We talked to Emil. He said, absolutely, let's get this on the agenda with the vehicle replacement. We brought it to their attention back in February. Then we met again in March, we're a city commissioner, to advise the board of where we were. So we had sent Greenwood a letter of intent of our process, which is going through all the boards, to hold that truck for us. They have 2 departments waiting in line. If Torrington refuses this truck, they have 2 step fighters ready to go. So it's a hot market. It's Greenwood's putting the money up front to buy the truck just to flip it. So they're holding it for us, and here we are in front of the board of safety. We went through the vehicle replacement advisory board, and now we're now the board of safety and hopefully city council.
I just have 2 concerns. My first concern was, like the last truck we purchased, we didn't have a committee from inside the fire department. This time around, we didn't have a committee in the firehouse, correct?
We actually had a committee for the last truck.
We did.
We did.
Okay. Do we have a committee for this one?
No.
Okay.
But it's the same 1 or 2 individuals with myself and chief of
Okay. And I know the last issue was on the E1s was the horsepower to get up the hills around us. Did we upgrade that motor?
Well, I don't have the actual spec with me, so I could not confirm it.
So it's the same motor as
Possibly, and I can't confirm.
because I know it was an issue getting up
And
and
it's,
down the hills.
engine 2 is a lot bigger and it's full of equipment, 60,000 pounds versus a 40,000 pound truck.
Are there other questions on the motion? All right, hearing none, I'll call this. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and we'll bring this to the city council April 17th. And the vehicle replacement plan, modified vehicle replacement plan to the city council at the same time. Thank you. All right, item 7. We need to table this. This actually is an acquisition that is written into the plan. The vehicle replacement advisory board did agree that this should go out to bid. Once it goes out to bid, Emil will bring back to the board the results of that bid, and that decision will be made then. So, do I have a motion to table?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Crowd, second by Commissioner Benedetto. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This one is tabled. And that does it for vehicles. Moving into item 8. I will entertain a motion to utilize the procurement process from NPP GOV. This is membership number M-5698164, contract number PS20035, to purchase the Hall Metro battery operated rescue tools for the Torrington Fire Department in the amount of $157,325.70 from MES/Shipments of Waterford, Connecticut. 90% of the funds will be reimbursed by FEMA under the Awarded Assistance to Firefighters Grant, that's the AFG grant, and the remaining 10% is coming from the Fire Department capital funds, it's capital reserve funds. This again would be pending council approval. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Benedetto, second by Commissioner McElroy. I think the only thing that I would add to this, I know that I was meeting with the purchasing agent a little bit earlier, and she just wanted to make sure that the boards, as we present this, are aware that this procurement process, while it may be a little departure from, going out to bid and there being 3 or however many bids that result in this, this is still in compliance with procurement processes because of the consortium. So motion was made and seconded. Questions, comments?
Do we have any battery operated tools yet? Or is this the first one?
This will be the first. We have a fan, a chainsaw that I mentioned too. But this would be the actual first rescue tools.
Other questions? Comments? Hearing none, I'll call this motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're being to item 9. I'll entertain a motion to accept Police Chief Bowman's report for February 2023.
So
Thank you, Commissioner Howard.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McGuire. Questions? None. No questions. You're all saving it for the budget review, right? All right. If there are no questions, I'll call the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10, I'll entertain a motion to accept Fire Chief Gordon's report for February 2023.
So,
Second.
I heard second by Commissioner Spino. Questions or comments on the report?
Chief, just a couple of things on, had a couple of concerns with the EMS. On March 8th, that Cedar Lane fire, we were battling, we had a medical call at the same time on South Main Street, Clarence Street. Do you recall that? Do we have a plan in place for that? What happens in a case like that?
The plan was exactly what happened. They had freed up, because Trinity was on arrival at the time. They were to transfer the care to Trinity and free up and respond to it on Cedar Lane.
Okay. So in a case like that, once they respond to a medical call, the ambulance wasn't there, do you guys have to stay on scene until they get there?
That's right.
Okay. So what would be the plan if you have to stay
They
there?
would remain on scene and continue right
And
here.
who would you utilize?
Our tactical objective changed on the fire department at that point of what we can do based on the resources we have. It's no different than if they're MDA, a rescue of any other kind of nature. You're only as good as the resources you have available at the call that comes in. And that particular incident was one of the ones that we had discussed before, that with the EMS portion of it, that there is always the risk of that unit will be tied up with it until we're able to pass the care. We have to stay with that. But again, like I said, it's no different than any other call that we go to. That if they're tied up on that, they can't just drop it and say, "Oops, sorry," and go on to a bigger call. We have the responsibility for every incident we go to.
And did it affect the fire scene at all?
No.
No. And just another question on 540 Litchfield Street, you got a chest pain, isn't that in the hospital?
Why do we go there?
Yeah. Why would
We go based on what comes in from 911 and goes through the EMT process through LCD. So when that call came in, whatever the little triggers were that would say the fire department would be part of that response based on the call types that are there.
But now, was it at the hospital?
Even though it's at the hospital.
Yeah.
I know it sounds fairly weird, but it's not uncommon in any community that has a hospital in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Not often, but sometimes you do go to the hospital for those calls. You scratch your head saying, they're at the hospital, why are we going? But it's part of the hospital's protocols that initiate the call to come outside.
Other questions for Chief Gordon? Report?
do you have the number of the runs from last year?
I'm sorry?
The number of runs you guys went on last year?
I don't have that in front of me at this time. Are you looking for something specific?
I just want to know the total number of calls because the manpower is still at 11 since the 80s, and it's time to look at increasing the personnel with the amount of calls that are coming in. It's getting tough with those 2 fire trucks and multiple calls, especially 25% of the call loads simultaneous and so I just want to know what the numbers are.
I can get those numbers to you. Like I said, I'm not here.
No problem.
Also, if you're responding to a call to the hospital, what is it that they have to do? And
No different than if we went to anybody's address or a business, we treat the call the same way. When it's the hospital has certain protocols in place, and I'm not going to speak exactly what they are because I don't know the exact language, but if somebody were to get hurt on their property, they go through a certain procedure, and that's why I so in that particular case, not something occurred, but somebody had another episode, and the dispatch protocol would initiate the fire department response with Trinity. It was a place just like
This fellow was actually outside the hospital when the parking lot. This local fiber this street wasn't in the hospital.
So Chief, just back to the medical calls. I was looking at last month's report. We went on 162 medical calls out of 297. Are you concerned about 2 calls coming at the same time with a fire coming in?
Yeah, we're looking at those numbers all the time and saying, you know, what are we going to be able to do? And that's one of the reasons why when I started, or we started this whole additional EMS response was we were looking at the numbers to say, can we do them with the resources we have and not jeopardize what's going to happen? But again, on any given day, I cannot tell you what the call is going to be. So withholding services and skills that we have as a fire department for the potential of another call coming in, I think it's the service to the community when we can provide the service all the time. And every now and then we may run that risk of being a little thin on what we need to do. But again, there's other ways to look at that, as Commissioner McElroy pointed out. We look at increasing staffing and things like that, and what's the impact, the overall impact. But again, going into this, we did not pull it in to do full first responder or anything like that. We're totally committed to everything. We still have the ability to kind of back off on all types. So if we were operating at a structure fire right now, and the EMS call comes in, we're not obligated to go to that call. That would be totally Trinity at that point.
No, I just don't want to get caught at an EMS call when we have an EMS service and there's a fire going. Try to explain that to the family, you know.
No, I totally understand.
Waiting for a callback.
To clarify on that is we, again, if we're on an EMS call, if we're the only ones there, we do have to stay. But if Trinity's there, we leave.
No, I understand that. I don't want to be the only ones there and a fire comes in. Now we're very short-handed fighting the fire.
That was your original question that you had asked, and just for clarification on that, if we are the only ones there, we are staying at the EMS call, and we will free up as soon as possible to be able to respond back to the fire that came in after the EMS call. But at that point, the incident commanders are going to change the tactical objectives and meet the structure fire side of it with what they have for resources available at that time. Because again,
but is it safe to the guys showing up on scene at a fire with, say, 4 guys instead of 8?
Well, we're not, by definition, we're not safe with 11 guys. We need more people at a structure fire to handle a lot of things.
So why do we want to run the risk of taking 4 guys away from that fire? What do we have to do?
Again, like I said, I can't tell you what the next call is going to be. In the meantime, if a structure fire is not going on and not coming in, I think we're doing a disservice to the community by not providing EMS where we can without spreading ourselves too thin. But again, there is that fine line, and I can't tell you what the next call type will be and how many resources are going to need to be there. But it's no different, like I said, if we're in a car accident with one engine company for handling that incident and a structure fire came in, it would be the same exact thing if that EMS call, if that car accident.
The odds are going up with 162 medical calls a month.
I'm sorry?
Your odds are going up with 162 medical calls a month.
Yes, they do. But again, like I said, when those other calls are not coming in, such as a structure fire or something else, do we say that it's not worth utilizing the services that we currently have in place to provide a service to the citizens? I think it's wise that we do what we're doing right now. And we haven't added a whole lot of call types, and we're looking, the ones that we have added are truly ones that people need help and care.
Well, as far as we have Trinity in-house,
we do, but again, there's with EMS calls, depending upon the thing, without getting too deep into it, every minute counts on certain call types. So if we're right around the corner from
no, and I understand that
originally there, and Trinity may be coming from quarters, they may be coming from the hospital, who knows? Again, they can't forecast exactly what's going to happen. That's a win for the citizen.
No, I understand that, but I look at their response time and it's 5 minutes. They meet the standard.
I know they meet the standard. I'm saying that again, we can be there. Again, this is
no, and I totally get what you're saying. It's just my concern is sending another engine company to a structure fire with 5 guys.
I understand what you're saying, but again, like I said,
with no
I back up, I can't tell you that's gonna happen.
But it might, and we have to be
A
prepared.
lot of things may happen. And to do that, we have to prepare for every single scenario, and that's impossible.
I think the first thing, so we don't drag the sun all night, the first thing we need to do is meet the National Fire Protection Association standard and have 17 for a structure fire, which we've never had since I've been on the job here in Torrington. Once we get the fire department to 17 for a structure fire, and then we can figure out the other things that are going to happen down the road. So we're not even at the position to protect the firefighters for the amount of work that they do for a structure fire anyways. So we can either stop doing medicals and, you know, how many building fires do you have this year? So I'm going to say, I probably know the answer. So I'm going to say you had 3 building fires this year so far. How many medical ones have you done?
162 last month.
Just last month. So the chances of a building fire coming in compared to somebody who's having a heart attack or choking or something like that is very minimal. So if I see the board fight to meet the standard and put 17 guys at a structure fire, and then I'll back and support you with that all the way. But if we're not going to even get to that yet, then we're going to start whatever problems in first.
My concern is not that. My concern is sending your one engine company to a structure fire when we're tied up at a slip and fall at Price Chopper. It's just, that's not fair to the taxpayer. Not fair to your guys in your firearms.
So if I may, from that.
You know, and I understand to help the community.
We can debate this all day long, okay? I take 2 incidents, 2 fire alarms happening right at the same time, the structure fire happening. That same scenario is going to play out as you described.
So if I may, I think that there's a better way for us to do this. You, Chief Ward, you had a plan to bring to the board your analysis of the EMS calls. And we know that we also have to present to the board at the May meeting what our plans are with enhanced EMS services through Trinity's contract. So I think that if we can agree that this conversation, which I think is a good conversation, an important conversation to be had, but this will give you an opportunity to make that presentation to the full board and send as much information in advance of that presentation to the board so that we can have this conversation. Does that make sense? All right. I think that instead of trying to answer questions.
No, and I understand, Chief. I totally understand, because when we put this policy in place, and I don't know how it got changed, but it did, we had 5 calls we were going to, so it was minimal that a structure fire would come in. But now that we're going, my concern now is that we're doing so many medical calls that we're going to leave the other company in jeopardy with no backup.
I understand your concern. The numbers are a little bit skewed as to what you see and what is actually additional to what we're doing, but that again will be talked about in the meeting.
Okay.
And in that presentation, you're going to you're gonna show what the difference between an EMS call and a medical assist is. I mean, that's something I'm thinking that needs to be clarified.
Yes.
Okay. Medical assist versus EMS call. Are those are 2 different things. All right. Yeah, I think it'll be helpful for the full board to see this report, and then this conversation will be had a bit more robust to where we're going and what the board's goals and objectives are.
Just because if we see this number of medical calls that our fire department has to go to, then we need to be talking to Trinity. And if Trinity has a problem, he would come to this board and tell us, correct? Correct. And is there a problem out there?
Well,
I think that was a rhetorical question.
Well, I'm just going to keep quiet.
Yes.
I'll answer the question because we're in my report. There is no problem right now. This is a supplemental thing to it. Again, Trinity is within their contract, has X amount of resources available to the system, and they could be spread throughout the city. So in the meantime, we're looking at, can the fire department fill a few of the gaps in between, but we're not committed to those calls. Again, if a structure fire came in right now, we would respond with full assignment. And then if a subsequent EMS call came in a minute later, we don't go to that. Trinity's going to handle that on their own. We can't make up the difference or do anything to something like that at that point. So it's a matter of how the calls come in, et cetera. But
Yeah.
and again, if we're getting 2 calls deep, we're not going to go to that third medical call because we can't. Because then we would be stripping ourselves completely.
I'll call for questions on Chief Wynn's report for February 2023. And no other questions, I'll call this motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 11, I'll entertain a motion to accept the EMS provider activity report for February 2023.
So
Question from Dennis, second by Commissioner Kelly. Questions or comments on this report?
Jeff, how many ambulances and medics are in the city at one time?
So we have one BLS ambulance, one basic life support ambulance, one advanced life support ambulance, and a paramedic supervisor flight car that's on 24/7. Because of the call volume lately, we've staffed another person, another EMT 9 to 5, just so that our supervisor, when we get inundated with emergencies, can actually jump on and staff a 3rd ambulance.
So my next question is, in your professional opinion, for 35,000 plus population people in the city, plus all the people driving through Torrington, and comparing to other size cities, how many ambulances would we need for you to keep up a little bit more?
Yeah, well, I think this is something that we've looked at a lot. We're passing anywhere from 15 up to 20 calls a month. So I think an additional ambulance, another 12-hour ambulance, would really would help that. So
And if I may, I'm going to jump in here. So the EMS provider MOU that the city entered into with Trinity, who, by the way, is the holder of the PSA, expires May 30th of this year. Chief Warden, Bob Jopley, Dave and Jeff and Victor, Michelle and myself have had a number of meetings over the last 2 months. We are looking at the extension of that contract. That contract allows for 2 one-year extensions. We have negotiated what we believe will provide that additional service that is needed. It will come at a cost to the city. There will be a presentation to the Board of Safety and the May meeting to give you the details of what those services would look like and what the cost would be. Other questions?
So in the meantime, you have mutual aid coming into that to fill the gap
yes.
with no issues.
Yeah, I mean, one of the issues is a lot of the other towns are stretched pretty thin also. So, but we have a number of towns that we can pull from. Again, when we start getting busy too, we pull a full car from Waterbury. I think last year we did 300 and something emergencies with a Waterbury crew. So we have options. And when we start to see that these calls are coming in like this is when we start to pull resources.
Other questions on the EMS provider? Hearing none, I'll call this motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? How many are shaping up to be a full EMS discussion? All right, item 12. I'll entertain a motion to consider business by volunteer fire departments.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Clement, second by Commissioner Bennett. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are open to our volunteers. What we said.
We got our new air packs in that we got a grant for this week, and we're also going to do a flyer to try to get some more volunteers to the city. See if we can get more personnel in there. Nobody wants to volunteer anymore. Nobody wants to work anymore. So gonna try that next, see what happens.
Excellent.
Gary, how many active or black helmet firefighters do you have, and how many yellow up there right now?
3 black, 3 yellow.
3 and 3. Okay, thank you.
Other questions for the volunteers? Right, I think Jim Potter reached out to me so that I can connect you with the tax collector to get those flyers out in the tax bills.
We're gonna do them yellow before that too,
Good, okay.
and do another one at that time.
Yes. And I think I saw Mike Baker's, yes, on,
Yes, I'm here. Couple updates. We continue to work with FEMA on our 2 remaining air packs for Brush 36. That's going to be 2 packs, 4 bottles, and 2 medium air masks. We are also going to be buying 2 other medium masks for Engine 35. We have a small and a large that we're not going to be using at this time because all of our members mask fit tested to the medium size. So that program is going to be coming to a conclusion in the next few weeks as we get the paperwork filed and move some training money over to equipment. We were reduced in our award based off of a market study that was done on the FEMA side. So we're just kind of reallocating some funds. On the membership side, firefighter Sam Maver completed his RIT class and he continues to take firefighter 1. So he's on his way to getting a black helmet with us. He just turned 18. So we are looking into some driver training on 36 so we can at least get him started on some minor pumping and, another driver that can roll one of the trucks. And then we just got finished with our fund drive letter. And in that fund drive letter, we actually asked for membership, of all, whether it's exterior, interior, or an associate member. We received 2 applications as a result of that. One has some emergency management experience who lives on Norfolk Road, so we're interested in talking with him. And one of the other friends of one of our current firefighters who lives in the Pearl Street area is also interested, albeit exterior, but he's interested in learning to drive, and a really good kid. So we're hoping that we're going to get a few more of those applications in as we go through the next few weeks.
thank you. Anything?
Mike, same question. How many black helmets and yellow helmets right now do you have?
Yeah, right now we have 2 black helmets. We have 1 individual that needs to go to a live burn this spring and into the summer, and then we'd have 3. And then we have about 4 or 5 yellow helmets at this time.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mike. All right, we'll move into item 13. I'll entertain a motion to consider business by the department heads.
So,
Commissioner Van second Commissioner Cloud, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Instructed to
Good evening, everybody. Just graduated 3 new officers from the Waterbury Academy on March 21st. Logan Cavello, Anthony Arvello, and Matthias Ekstrand. They're currently under FTO program, doing very well. I'm very excited to be on board. We have a recruit right now in the Britain Academy, as I reported in past meetings, scheduled to graduate June 8th or 9th of this year. We also just hired 2 new officers on the 28th, and they'll be starting the academy post on tomorrow, actually, April 6th. So we're down, our deficit now went from 12 to 10 with 2 new hires. So we're making progress in that part. As far as some significant issues going on in town, we had our statewide narcotics, along with my narcotics officer, made a decent narcotics arrest on Washington Avenue. They hit the house on 2 separate occasions within a month's time. The first time was back in February 24th. 400 bags of fentanyl, an ounce of crack, and some cash were seized. And then the most recent investigation at this address, there were 700 bags of fentanyl that were seized, along with 1.5 ounces of crack and cash as well. Both individuals were arrested in various narcotics charges. And that's pretty much it for some of the things that are going on in our park.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions? Thank you, Chief. Anything to add?
No, good.
Chief Warden.
As we discussed earlier, we ordering our new hydraulic tools to replace our aging rescue tools that we have. So that we have 2 firefighters in the academy that are progressing along well, and we hope to see them back in another month or so. I think we're 2 months, I believe, for that to look at the dates. We continue. We're going to have 2 retirements coming up between April and May, which we try to strive to be at 13 per shift, ideally, to cut down some of the overtime costs, but we continue to be at 12 with the 2 retirements and the 2 firefighters coming out of the academy after they get their final training and put on line. We'll be back at 12 again. So we never seem to get past that hump, but we're working towards that. Recently had a couple somewhat significant fires that the firefighters did an excellent job on. The first one was on Cedar Lane with a burn victim on arrival, and firefighters did a quick knockdown of that fire. And we're able to get the victim of the fire transported out via Lifestar to a burn center. Albert Street was the second one. Firefighters encountered a pretty heavy fire condition on the members of the 2nd floor of that building with severe warning conditions throughout that unit. They had there, locate the seat of the fire and actually extinguish it completely. So hats off to them, they did a good job of that. And that's it.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the Chief?
And Chief, I just have a quick question. We lost one of our recruits in this class. Do we still intend to take the 5th person that was in? We had interviewed 5, so we still have 1 to go into the next class, or where are we going with that? Because theoretically, we still have 1 in the budget, one position to fill.
Right now, we haven't discussed where we're going to go next. We're not, the academy's still going, and we have a little bit of time before we have to react to that. We're going to look at the list, but one of the ideas floating out there is, do we go back to that consortium list that we have and bolster the numbers yet? Okay, look at new candidates. So we have to look at that. And again, personnel rules and everything else are in place that we have to.
You just want to fill it, that's all.
I just want to fill it. We're hoping we can fill it right then and there, but of course, the time we work on that.
Any questions for Chief Ward?
What's that, Matt?
And
Yeah, Trinity, actually, we just took delivery of 4 new ambulances. I feel your guys' pain because we ordered them 2 years ago. 2 years ago in March. So we finally just took delivery, 28% increase in price too. But they arrived. One of them I'm going to allocate to Torrington. So they have to go through the OEMS inspection. Today they're looking at radios in one of them. So I anticipate in a month or so we should see one of those on our roads. That's it.
questions? And we'll move to item 14. And I will entertain a motion to consider business by the mayor and member of the board of public safety.
So moved.
Commissioner Benedetto.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, I'll start to my right with Commissioner Spino. Thank you. Commissioner McCollum.
I just want to say fire department did a great job with those 2 structure fires that were recent here, and actually missed both of them, which is very rare for me. But and also the police department are doing a great job apprehending the individual that ran off from Spencer Road up to Magnolia Corridor. That was a good operation, I think. Very close attention to that. So, and how's things going? Things are going great.
Thank you, Commissioner Benedetto. Commissioner Clem.
Well said, thanks.
Commissioner Allen? No. Thank you. Okay. So at this point, I want to go back onto the agenda portion, which is the discussion of the public safety budgets. And we'll start with the police department's budget. Because I am not looking for a vote on these budgets this evening, I'm not looking to get the board of safety to approve anything this evening in advance of the city council. This is just not for the board of safety to hear the high level explanation of what the budget requests are. So we'll go with the police department first. And Chief, following the order on the agenda, starting with police headquarters.
Okay, our total budget for police headquarters was an increase of $370,000, which was a 3.71% increase overall for that budget. I was charged to be within that ballpark when we presented this budget. Myself, Deputy Brown, members of my command staff went through our each line item. We made significant reductions in some of the line items and some of the driving factors and the increase in the line items as a result of contracts, utilities, personnel, wages, things along that line. As you know, everything is increasing as far as the contracts that we have with various agencies, and that has been driving up a significant part of our budget, service agreements, things along that line. We also did an increase in our capital reserve. We added a relatively significant amount of $83,000. We're in the process now of attempting to replace ballistic vests for our personnel. So that was a driving factor as well. We're also increasing our employee assistance program by a relatively significant amount as we deal with officer wellness and things like that for our personnel. Those are pretty much the highlights of our budget for the headquarters budget. If we go to the animal control budget, next.
So before we do that, if we could, I just want the board to have an opportunity to ask any questions specific to the headquarters. And just so in this budget book, what you're looking at, and I apologize, I should have numbered the pages. So the first page under the police department review is the budget summary after the budget subcommittee reviewed reviewed the budget. The second page is a worksheet report. This is how the budget was submitted by the various department heads, and the pages behind that are the detail. So in each one of these where you have a line item 1501, which is salaries 1, if you look at the budget detail, it gives you detail what calculates that number. So any questions in regard to any of the budget numbers on police headquarters? None? Okay, thank you. Chief, animal control.
Animal control budget again, we've reduced our budget in several different line items to stay within a certain percentage. Again, the driving factors in that were increase in salaries, and we also did add monies into our capital reserve. Even though we have a new facility that's on board, we still have that old facility that's going to be needing some attention, and we have to take care of that as well. We're also paying attention to the utilities associated with the animal control budget as well. So the total increase for animal control is 8.4%. So which equals 29,000. It was a $29,500 increase in that budget from last year's.
The only thing that I would add, Chief, in the budget subcommittee meeting last night, there was discussion about that capital reserve, and the budget subcommittee did make a motion and a recommendation to the Board of Safety that the capital reserve amount be eliminated in this budget, and those capital reserve funds be moved into city real estate. So going forward, you'll see that reduction will show up in level level 2. So
that will significantly reduce that for that budget for that department. So
questions on the animal control?
So we're maintaining the old building?
The old building is they're not tearing it down right away. It is slated eventually for destruction, I guess. Right now, it's going to be used for storage, some needed storage that is necessary for and some other departments as well within the city. But it's my understanding that the utilities are all going to be cut off. Our facilities manager, Jim Sikora, is going to be maintaining, monitoring that building and the costs associated with that building. But it's not going to be utilized for animals anymore. The new facility obviously will be what's going to take over for any type of animal control issues.
Could we say to the city some money to have like a live bird down there and do some training?
They actually had requests for another use. So there may be a revenue stream that can be generated by another use. I'll speak with the chief offline about that. All right, if there are no questions, I think, Chief, the only thing that I thought might be helpful for you so is when you talk about the salary restructuring, how animal control officers function. Maybe just a little bit on that.
Yeah. So currently we have 2 full-time, and we're looking to, and we have 4 or 5 per diem. The per diem officers fill in for the full-time when the weekends and when they're on vacation, holidays, things like that. We've been having a difficult time getting per diems to come in to work and because they're per diem, they're last minute calls. So in going through the budget, we feel it'd be better to hire another full-time person, stagger the shifts between the 3 to get more coverage for the city. Because when there's not a per diem working, we're sending police officers, and the officers have other calls to go on. So what we did is we cut some of the money that goes into the part-time per diem and use that money offset into the wage line item. That's why there's an increase. You'll see an increase and a decrease in both of those.
Deb, do you think that will eliminate our police officers from doing animals?
I mean, I don't think it will eliminate them completely because on the weekends, say at 9, 10 o'clock at night, we have an animal call. We do call the per diems at that point. And if we go through the call list, we'll either get a per diem to come in, sometimes they don't. And then our officer may have to deal with a call. But I think that adding another 3rd full-time, staggering all 3 of them will get us more animal control coverage.
Thank you. Questions? We'll go to traffic.
Traffic, same thing. We had an increase of about 6% in our traffic, and some of the driving factors again with that is salary, our wage line items. Our electric has gone up, so we had to increase that. Building maintenance, we're in the process. We have to do garage door maintenance for the traffic barn on Winthrop Street. Additionally, our service agreements have gone up about $5,000 this year. We continue to replace, we're on a replacement for parking meters. A lot of these meters that we have have been constructed and are from the 1950s. So Sergeant Walvis is working very hard in replacing those. As the meters break, we've been replacing them. So he's added money in that capital reserve parking line item to change out those meters and also to add credit card and Wi-Fi type of meters where you're not going to have to put coins in the meters anymore. It'll be more of a credit card or the app, the Park Mobile app that we're currently using. That's pretty much it as far as the traffic division is concerned. Overall, when you look at the entire budget for all 3 departments, the total increase for all 3 total 4%. So it was an increase of about $430,000, although we have some reductions as the mayor just indicated. So that would bring that number below the 4% increase. So those are our combined budgets. It's a 4% increase.
And just for the document you have before you, Again, budget subcommittee level discussion. An adjustment to the salary line item, regular wages 5103. It's a $7,964 reduction. This reduction in this department is reflective of the request for additional hours for full-time employees to go from 37.5 hours to 40 hours. The subcommittee felt that because that's a contractual negotiation, that this was a little cart before the horse. So the request was to move that out of this budget for the time being. We will make an appropriation in another department within the budget, so those contract negotiations can occur. And then once there's an agreement in terms, they can move that can be moved back in. So $7,964 reduction on 5103 and a $2,295 increase on FICA, which is 5753, resulting in a budget level, I guess is what I would call it here for the Board of Safety. Is Board of Safety is a $596,984. And the chief is right. You know, I greatly appreciate that the department brought this budget in. I think the only thing that I would remind the board is you'll see these budgets do not reflect wage increases. We are just going into contract negotiations for the police department budgets. So this 4% does not include any wage increases or adjustments. Questions?
What could the salaries do? What can the contract do to the budget?
Well, with every budget, Commissioner, the salary line items are withdrawn.
Yeah, yes.
Right. There's no question it's going to be an increase in that budget.
How much do you know?
We're in negotiations, and it's not. We're not supposed to have this conversation.
Okay.
Outside of negotiations. So,
Next month.
yeah, or the month after, or the month after that. But it is something that I think it's important because what we hear over and over and over again is, you know, retention, recruitment. So there are negotiations that have just commenced. I think March 20th was our first day. That's one.
Yeah, that's one.
Right. Emergency management.
Emergency management was pretty flat, absent one increase of $32,000. We are currently, myself and Deputy Chief Tripp, discussed the adding of Everbridge, which we currently have supporting the water system. It was funded for the first 3 years. First 3 years by ARPA funding, and when that runs out, we need to budget for it. We currently have between 1,500 and 1,600 subscribers. Those that do subscribe to it are very, very pleased with it. We continue to advertise it, continue to hope to increase the number of subscribers. So going forward, we're going to be budgeting for the Everbridge Joint Alert System. That's a $30,000 increase in the emergency management budget. The other thing about the emergency management budgets, we also get a reimbursement from the MPG grant. So what you see is significantly reduced as a result of that grant.
Questions or comments on emergency management? All right. I think that's it that I have for the police department budgets. Right.
Budget that we submitted for the 9% reduction from previous budget currently. And again, echoing the same thing that Chief Walton said, this is not reflective of wage increases, and we're still within in arbitration right now to find out what those final numbers will be. The increases that we have seen anything shoot up on of significance would be our physical exam schedule that we have has gone up due to cost increases through the insurance for our contract with them, but they still remain the best option for us and the cheapest. look at, sorry, I'm trying to stay on line here. New equipment budget went up by about $9,000. That's reflected within the 80 units we're putting in service. So we bought 3 this budget that we're currently operating in, and then we'll go into this proposed budget. There'll be 3 more bought to bring us to a total of 60 units to replace our aging ones that we have.
And I think if I may just draw the board's attention to when we look at this budget reduction, I think the driver of the budget reduction, absent the wage increases that will impact this budget, but the largest reduction is that capital reserve line item. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Judge? So it's line 5357. And if you look in your detail, line 5357, chance to get to that page, and I do apologize. I guess I could have numbered these pages for you. So for the board's high-level discussion, in this capital reserve, our departments had been budgeting not only for facility improvements such as elevators and windows and those brick and mortar type of repairs and improvements that need to be made, and other departmental uses such as the turnout gear, the air compressors, the SCBA piece upgrades. So what we did was we worked with Jamie Sikora, the facilities director, and with Deputy Chief Tripp and Chief Borden to separate what's actually brick and mortar and what is a departmental capital investment. Does that frame it for you?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was actually pulling up my worksheet that remaining costs. This is the new sheet. Yes, so the capital projects you see here are strictly operational projects within the fire department. Two of the ones that we've been funding for many years, now 5 years or so, is the SCBA, $70,000 annual, but we talked about that 15-year life of the air pack. We had a 5-year lease that was about $66,000 a year for the first 5 years. And we continue just after that lease, continue dropping $70,000 into the capital reserve for the anticipation in 10 years from now, we'll have enough money to buy our air packs through a leasing program. 33,000 for our gear. Next year we'll start the rotation of all of our members having 2 sets of gear. Once that capital purchase is done after July. It took us 8 years to get there. So now we're on a good cycle to make sure our frappers have 2 sets of gear for the cancer prevention program. What we took out, we had some recruit training in here and some promotional testing. We actually eliminated those in the line items under training and promotional testing. We have a line item. We added our air compressor. It's an aging air compressor. Right now it's approximately 20 years old. It's 18 years old. So we're starting to put money looking into a 5-year plan to start investing in the air compressor because we figured about 5 years they'll need to be replaced. So we put 20,000 in that. Our high capacity extractor, originally we had 10. We're really close. Our extractor now is on the fritz. I've already dumped about $3,000 worth of repairs into it. And now they're saying it's a motherboard, which is another $1,500. The new extractor goes for anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 on the smaller side. We're looking for one that can handle 4 sets a year. So with this capital, $15,000 out of the 10 that's already in the reserves will allow us to buy an extractor. So up to 1.5 extractors, I'll call it, come this summer. So that's why there's just $15,000 in the high capacity extractor. And we took out the rescue tools. Originally it was $45,000 for the rescue tools. In case we didn't get the grant, we got the grant right in time notice, so we're able to eliminate the $45,000 capital reserve. So since we got the grant.
And the rest of those capital reserve expenses that were specific to building maintenance, the brick and mortar, those expenses have been moved into the city real estate budget. And those will be expenses that will be monitored, and the oversight will be provided by the facilities maintenance director. So if there's a concern about are we doing enough to make sure that we're maintaining our buildings, that would be your short answer. All right, questions for either chief on fire department 22?
Chief, could I ask you a question? Probably got to open a can of worms that we don't want to open. But we're talking before about the amount of fires we have and calls and the amount of firefighters we have. Do we need 3 fire marshals? Could we not utilize one of those people as a line firefighter? And I know it doesn't make a huge difference in the budget, but as the fire calls go down, I've always kind of wondered why we had 3 anyway. To tell you the truth, and I know that's going to open up a mess. I know that.
No,
that's not the point.
I'll give you the most direct answer. The fire marshal's office is not only responsible for investigating fires, but what they do is inspect all of our above three family and above occupancies and commercial structures, etc. And that's a daunting task because they have to get in these buildings. Sometimes it can take several days when you get into a commercial structure, etc., to do the inspection, and then not to mention following up with reports, etc., etc. So they're very active. And if anything else, they would need to increase that department probably by at least 1 more member. So for what we get out of that division, if you will, within the fire service, they're overtaxed already. So we wouldn't be able to reallocate personnel to go back on the line.
Yeah, I mean, I see the numbers every month, and I understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to look at different things and limits. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we'll go into volunteers.
There hasn't been much change in the volunteers. We did see a reduction of about 12%, which is mostly reflective of the amount of personnel. So the expenditures we would have for physicals and training opportunities and stuff is just less than it would be. So we're forecasting where we are currently and maintaining the number came down a little bit. That's the most significant. Most of the other costs are pretty in line with increased costs, when it comes to fuel, et cetera, things that we do something.
Chief, have we done anything with recruitment, trying to help that's something that they're in the works with right now. With they spoke with the mayor about that, and then we're going to look to see if we can do with them as well and get together. We have a meeting next week, I believe, Tuesday, that we're going to be addressing a lot of those issues.
Questions on the volunteer? So again, I think the important thing here is over the last couple of years, the boards have increased the stipends or contributions. There is no proposal at this point to reduce that. Those are level funded. And I believe that fire service coordination meeting is probably an important meeting to attend to see what we as a community can do to better define what that volunteer system looks like and how to better help with recruitment and retention. So I am looking forward to that meeting. And I think we have 3 members from this board on that committee. So any other questions on volunteer? All right, that's the review. And again, I wasn't looking for a vote or any recommendations from the board. You're all seeing this at the receipt of hard copy form, for the first time. So we'll revisit this in May, and the board will at that point make a decision on what it recommends to the city council for action. Okay. All right. Well, then there is no further business for the board. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Commissioner. Favor. Any thoughts? Return. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.